can turn the story into the Indian house, but he was chosen for it. Ruth had opened her arms and her heart, adopting him into a world of golden cornfields and summer thunderstorms. He grew up in the warmth of a kitchen, a boy who knew he belonged because of the way she said his name. Ruth would be proud of the way they held the roof up together. The years passed with the cruel speed of a river in flood. First Ruth was gone, then Brian's sister. His brother left with a bad attitude and did not look back. The house, once vibrating with the voices of 3 generations, fell into a heavy ringing silence. Brian and his nephew Evan stood in the quiet, the only 2 pillars left of a falling roof. Ruth would be proud of the way they held the roof up together.
Brian wanted Evan to have the independence Ruth would have wished for him. He left the house to Evan and moved away to start his own life. But the world outside was complex. Mail piled up on the porch, envelopes for gas, electric and water that Evan couldn't find the words to answer.
From afar, Brian began to pay the bills, keeping the lights on from a distance. Proud of the way they held the roof up together. Evan wasn't entirely alone in the house. He had Abby, a dog who saw the world exactly as Evan did, with suspicion and fierce, narrow devotion. Abby would often try to bite Brian. Abby didn't care for guests or strangers. He only had eyes for Evan, resting his heavy head on Evan's knee as the shadows moved across the living room walls. Ruth would be proud of the way they held the roof up together.
Life eventually pulled Brian back after his home was lost in a long relationship. They stayed friends but separated.
He returned to the Indiana house with his belongings in the trunk of his car. Abby tried to bite him. The stairs creaked a familiar welcome, but the air inside was different now, charged with the static of Evan's internal weather. They held the roof up together.
They established a new geography of survival. Evan claimed the upstairs, a sanctuary where he could navigate the voices and visions of his schizophrenia in private. Brian took the downstairs, turning the living room into a base of operations. The staircase became the border between 2 very different worlds.
Every month, Brian placed $400 into Evan's hand for groceries, a tangible pact of care. Though doctors suggested long-term facilities, Brian refused to give Evan over to the white walls of a hospital. He chose the strain over the house, the difficult nights and the unpredictable days, because they were family. Proud of the way they held the roof up together. The weight of the care was a physical thing. On days when Evan's mind was a storm, Brian felt the walls closing in. Evan fried pizza in oil and smoked up the house. Evan was rude when they drove to Starbucks. He watched his nephew talk to people who weren't there. The illness, a ghost that lived in the rafters, demanding more than Brian felt he had to. Part of the way they held the roof up together. To keep his own mind from breaking, Brian took to the water and the road and the local pool. The rhythmic stroke of his arms drowned out the noise of the house on his bicycle, pedaling hard against the Indiana wind. He felt the heaviness lift, replaced by the simple, honest ache of his muscles. They held the roof up together.
At the end of the day, they were just 2 men in a house built on love and loss. Evan would cook downstairs, and Evan would sit with Abby upstairs. The hum of the television, a shared heartbeat. It wasn't the life Brian had planned.
But as he sat on the porch, he knew Ruth would be proud of the way they held the roof up together.
I said it, but basically, I never want him to feel like there's something wrong with him, or this is just the cards he was dealt, and he has to deal with it. You know what I mean?
The way you said it was,
Like sometimes I want to say "what," but I would never say something like that, right?
yeah. So, best.
If I ever write a book about my adventures with him, you know what I'm going to call it?
What?
Fried pizza.
Fried pizza sound good.
His favorite thing to do is fried pizzas.
Oh God!
He'll fill a pot full of grease into it like it's boiling and smoking and filling the house up again.
You know what? I'm gonna name this book Fried Pizza.